Welcome to another episode of Head First with Dr. Hill. Today's guest is Andy Petranek, a athlete and CrossFit entrepreneur, co-CEO, co-founder of the Whole Life Challenge podcast, and all-around fitness guru. So, Andy, how you doing today?
Good. I'm doing great.
Great. Thanks for coming in today.
It's great to be here.
It wasn't that hard. You're in Los Angeles, so I got a captive a CrossFit expert here in the house.
Given the amount of rain we've had in the last 2 months, I'm kind of glad it's a nice sunny day.
Oh, so. Yeah. It's a little ridiculous. So, Andy, tell us about yourself. I, of course, plugged your CrossFit roots, but you're sort of CrossFit OG.
Yeah.
You were one of the first people who really sort of saw the CrossFit light and really leaned into that a little bit. So
it was a weird thing. It was a weird time. I'd come off of adventure racing, so my background before that was in long distance endurance sports.
Okay.
And I was a mountain biker and climber and mountaineer, and less for the purity of each one of those and more for the kind of excitement and adventure of them.
Okay.
So when the sport of adventure racing came around, I was like, oh my God, I got to do that.
Adventure racing, this is like Vin Diesel XXX kind of stuff? Is this, jumping off of helicopters onto mountains?
No. It's not that extreme. It's not that exciting. It's pretty extreme, but it takes much longer to get it done.
It's grueling.
So it's a very boring movie because you'd have to watch it for like 8 days, So, you go like 350 miles with a team of 2 to 4 people, 2 to 5 people, and you have to do all your own logistics. You have to do all your own navigating with a map and compass, and you find your way in the I was the team navigator usually, and you find your way in the mountains or in the rivers or whatever. All your own locomotion.
So mountains, river. So you're mountain biking, you're hiking, you're running, you're kayaking. What is
kayaking?
That?
You're kayaking. You're rock climbing. If they're sections of the race that are cliffs and whatnot, you're rappelling. You're rock climbing. You're going up. You're going down.
I have this image of you now with a kayak strapped to your back on a sheer mountain.
You don't have to
somewhere.
do that. You don't have to do that. So when you carry your gear, you carry your food.
Yep.
You carry your clothing. But if you get to a transition to a different form of locomotion.
Yep.
They provide that for you. You don't have to strap your bike and your kayak and all that stuff to your back and drag it like the Iditarod.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Okay. All right.
So
I still have respect for you, but
it's a little easier than you originally thought.
Yeah.
And those races were 5 to 10 days. Mm-hmm. But then I got involved in the shorter distance ones, with shorter distances in quotes, because it's like 3 hours.
Right.
That was a sprint distance.
Still a marathon, but yeah.
Right. And then, I had kind of hung my cleats up from doing that stuff and was in the personal training space, and I was looking online to see how I was going to take my business online. Mm-hmm. And I bumped into CrossFit. I literally stumbled into it. And I remember my experience originally was, where's the section of the site that you have to pay for something? Couldn't find it. Okay. I couldn't find it. And I couldn't figure out what this thing called a WOD was. And, it turns out that's the workout of the day. Right. It's right there on the homepage. The first thing you see is the WOD. And I, for some reason, decided I was going to try it. And, it leveled me the first time I did it. And I then did an experiment because I consider myself a strong athlete. And so anything that leveled me was like, this is outside of the norm of what I'm expect.
Sure.
How I perform. And I decided to go out and run a 5K because some of the literature, I read an article by Greg Glassman, who's the founder, called What is Fitness? And it totally resonated with all my philosophies around training and fitness. And but one of the things he said was, CrossFit, these short, intense workouts can take the place of endurance, of like long, drawn-out stuff. I'm like, well, I'm not training for anything. Why don't I try it? So I did an experiment. I ran a 5K and I started doing CrossFit for all my workouts, reduced my training volume probably by less than a half of what I was doing before in terms of time. And ran the same 5K about 3 months later, and I was 2.5 minutes faster in my 5K time.
Wow, so didn't impair you, certainly.
No, it actually made me faster. Wow. And everything got better. Yep. All these things got better. And I just was like, okay, I'm doing this. I went up to Santa Cruz to their headquarters and met Coach Glassman. And, we became one of the very early adopters, 2004, which, for me, that was one of the exciting parts. I'm kind of an early adopter guy. So finding something new and exciting and that fit with my kind of personality of adventure. It was adventurous.
Sure.
It was an adventure like the outdoors.
Right.
But it was, you'd finish a workout in the gym and people would look at you. I mean, you're draped out on the floor in a puddle of sweat. Nobody else knows what the heck it is you're doing.
Right.
They don't know what CrossFit. There's no social acceptance to this thing.
Back then.
And and then the gyms I was doing it in, they were like personal training gyms where it was the average age of the clientele was 50, and I was a freak.
Yeah, sure.
and it was fun. That was fun. And opened up CrossFit LA. Learned very quickly.
So that was your CrossFit gym? LA?
That was my CrossFit gym. It was Petranek Fitness when I first opened, and then we morphed into CrossFit LA. Found out very quickly that I didn't know as much as I thought I did about running a business.
Okay.
And
I've discovered that too. It's funny how that works.
Man, I've spent more money in coaching and business coaching and life coaching and like learning how to do this stuff.
Yep.
If I could have all that money back, well, first of all, I'd be out of business if I didn't have the advice.
Right.
So never mind. I can't have the money back.
Right.
But it took me a lot of headbanging and learning and throwing stuff against the wall to see if it stuck.
Yep.
And fortunately, it did. And fortunately, I ran into some people. I hired some people that were really influential in helping me establish a solid business practice. And we built it from nothing to 300, 350 members.
Wow.
It took like 3 or 4 years to do that.
It's not bad.
And just sustained it. Like the business model sustained itself. I'd love to say it continued growing to 500, 600, 700, but we were very limited in space. We have 4,000 square feet. Santa Monica is not known for its spacious spaces.
Is it still there?
Still there.
Where is it?
It's near Bundy and Santa Monica Boulevard.
Okay.
It's the easiest intersection.
Sure.
It's a little bit west of there on Santa Monica, but that's probably the most well-known.
Are you still involved with CrossFit LA?
I'm still coach 2 times a week. I coach classes, and I'm going there this afternoon actually to do a workout myself.
Great.
Yeah, I'm really good friends with the new owner. His name's Kenny Kane. And
so you sold the gym?
Guy. Sold the gym.
Okay.
Sold the gym 2 years ago. The Whole Life Challenge really took over and that's kind of that was my next adventure, really, because I was in the middle of doing what I was doing at CrossFit LA. And one of my challenges always as a coach was how do I get people to take what they're learning in the gym and then go back to their life and not do the same dumb, can I curse on this?
Sure.
Not do the same dumb shit that they did the day before. The same dumb stuff that they came to the gym to not do in the first place.
Right.
Whether it's posture or it's eating crap or it's, only sleeping 4 hours a night or it's, not stretching, no mobility.
Yep.
And so that was really the mother lode for me.
Okay.
I felt very limited as an influencer when I only saw somebody 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week, and then they went back to their life and, drank and partied. And
was a way to...
Whole Life Challenge came, we had been doing fitness challenges for many years, which were do a workout, train for 8 weeks, do the workout again and see how much you've improved. Kind of like my original test.
Sure.
We used to do it with prizes and give away all these things, and it was super fun. We'd have 150 people show up for these events that we do. And my head coach, my now business partner, Michael Stanwyck, and I we had attended a nutrition seminar. We really wanted to incorporate nutrition into the gym, into the culture at the gym. And we tried it. We tried doing it in a way that was educational. And it was so boring and dry and like a class, like something you'd go to UCLA to take a class for.
Yeah.
That I think the program we set up, 12 people started and 3 finished, and it was expensive. I think we charged $400 or $500 for it, and that just doesn't have an impact when you have a community of 300 people.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, well, let's go back to the drawing board. How do we take nutrition, and then what are some other elements we could do? Like stretching and exercise, and at the time we said supplementation. We've since changed that to sleep, hydration.
Okay.
And then the other the other X factors when it comes to health and well-being, like gratitude, like compassion, like meditation and consciousness. how do we incorporate those things? And we came up with this very rudimentary concept, this game concept, where you'd score yourself, you get points, and our plan was throw it up in a spreadsheet on Google Excel, a spreadsheet, and let people sign in and keep track of their stuff. Well, we had 2 people that were software engineers who said, don't do that. That's just bad. I mean, we had big reservations because if you have, say, 150 people playing a game and somebody makes a mistake on that spreadsheet and puts something in the wrong spot or erases somebody else's score, or you can't really lock it out. You can't make one line accessible to one person and one line. Yeah. So we knew there were pitfalls with that, but we were just fortunate that two of our clients were software engineers, and they were like, let's build something for you. We'll trade a membership for it. And we had the first Whole Life Challenge, and we had the reason it became what it's become, which is this kind of crazy, was simply because it worked. I mean, it did everything we wanted it to do in terms of the culture, the conversation, empowering people to make decisions on their own, not relying on us as coaches. We, I never wanted it to be Andy Petranek's Whole Life Challenge. Or, there are a lot of great trainers in the world who have made it all about them. It's just a different way. Yeah. Like Jillian Michaels is all about Jillian Michaels. It's great. It totally works. She's phenomenal. Yep. But it's not what I want. I want people, I want to be kind of out of the picture. I don't want people to have to call me to find out what to do.
I understand that exactly.
So that's what we experienced in that first Whole Life Challenge. And we said, oh, let's do it again. And we did it again. We got them to invite their friends and family. We grew from 150 people in the first one to 300 people. And then we went to a former colleague of mine who's a consultant. He was working with a bunch of CrossFit gyms. And we said, we'll give you exclusive rights to the first Whole Life Challenge. And he is a master at enrollment. He got 7,000 people from these 300 gyms to enroll in that next Whole Life Challenge. Wow. And that gave us our foothold.
Yeah,
and
certainly.
We created a business model that supported financially the businesses that joined. They earned a revenue share back on the signups that they brought in. And we were off and running. A lot of pitfalls along the way. We suddenly became a software company, and we no idea what I was doing. Yep. Developers and the amount of money that costs. It's just it's like a fire hose of cash.
Yeah, going out.
Yeah,
all
going out.
Yeah, I understand that.
So now, we had 23,000 people in the current Whole Life Challenge in January.
Wow.
And
23,000 people.
23,000 all over the world. We've had reports of people doing it in every continent except Antarctica. So we'd love Antarctica.
Right, totally.
If you'd like to go there and play the next Whole Life Challenge, we're looking for that person.
Could open a Peak Brain Center down there. Yeah.
I don't know if you get much walk-in traffic, but
I bet there's a market for Wim Hof method down there. Like it's a destination for Wim Hof method.
Absolutely true. Yes,
you could get all the serious athletes in the world to pay $20,000 and go down there for a week, and something like the bulletproof weeks and things.
Right.
I mean, it's marketing, right?
It's all marketing.
There's a drawdown there. That's great.
So that's where we are. We do 3 of them a year. Oh, and we also do 3 of them a year now. So instead of 150 people or 300 people once a year, it's 23,000 3 times a year.
Wow. So this is essentially people doing it on their own, checking in with the community, having a sort of support system and excitement around what they're doing.
Yeah, it's an event. So it's very unlike most apps out there, because we have an app. We have an Android app and an iPhone app, but it's a I was going to say sidebar, but it's not a side. It's a accompanying app to the game. The game takes place online, but it takes place in your life. Yeah. So you sign up. We do one in January, one in May, and one in September. If you're listening to this podcast and it's March, sorry, there's nothing for. I wish there's nothing for you to do except to register and get ready for the one in May. Right. But it doesn't start until May. Yeah. And everybody in the world is doing it at the same time. It's kind of like the original concept for that came from my experience doing marathons and doing events. Like, you can go out and run 26.2 miles anytime you want. Sure. But it's not the same.
Building up to it. Yeah.
It's not the same as going out and running the New York City Marathon. Yep. It's just a different experience. So we wanted that camaraderie and that community around everybody doing it at one time. And there are pitfalls in that business model, but
sure, absolutely. And of course, you have other things besides the challenge. You have a podcast. I think the
podcast is accompanying to the challenge. So we're really our intention is to become a valuable source of information for people who want to make small improvements to their life, small or big improvements to their life. And so we have a stable of blog writers who write articles for us. We partner with people who are exercise experts, who are mobility experts, who provide video content for us. I do the podcast, and the podcast I bring people on, like you came on my podcast.
That's right.
You analyzed my brain and found out I was ADD and
and wasn't
concussed.
Your mom involved in the background?
My mom was
shouting stuff in the background.
Well, she happened to be there, and she's like, "Oh, remember when you fell on your head and you were 1 year old? I dropped you down the concrete steps in the backyard." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
And I found it. And I found it in your brain. I was like, here it is. Yep. That was great.
So yeah, that was pretty darn funny.
Nice. I've never had a podcast guest's mom be chiming in from the background. That was lovely.
I didn't expect that. I mean, how would you know?
Yeah,
she just came because she's interested in what you do. Like never been to a place like that.
Sure.
Little did I know she was going to provide actual useful information.
So you have a lot of the CrossFit community worldwide. It's a massive sort of movement at this point.
We do. That was one of the interesting things when we first started. We were very pigeonholed into CrossFit.
Yeah.
It was all our images, all of our marketing was all CrossFit because that was my thing.
Yep.
But we very quickly realized that the real power behind the Whole Life Challenge was in non-CrossFitters. CrossFitters. Well, certainly CrossFitters are up for it, and CrossFitters can do it, and it actually is effective for everybody. The people in the world that need the most help with empowerment, with community, with building great habits are not doing it on their own already.
Right.
And so it's the CrossFitters who bring their mom in. It's the CrossFitters or the people who are already hard, strong athletes who agree to do it, but they bring in their sister, their brother, their coworker, and their best friend, or they have a community of lawyers at their office, their workplace, and they all decide to do it together. We have companies that are contacting us now who want to bring it in as a corporate challenge.
Sure.
So, we had to really go back to the drawing board in terms of making the pictures, the imagery, and the marketing, and the what it looked like, and our content match the people that were our customers, which are the people that are not doing that stuff, that are not already hardcore.
So for those people, I'm sure there's many people listening who aren't CrossFitters. Can you just back up a little and explain what is CrossFit? Because I have a sense of it, but from the outside, it seems a little bit.
It's funny because I thought you were going to say, what is the exercise part of the Whole Life Challenge? The exercise part of the Whole Life is 10 minutes.
Okay. So it's not purely physical.
It's not defined. So if you consider what you did today exercise, you get to count it. It's, yes, I did it. Great. I get my 5 points.
Okay.
There's some days when I walk my dog, literally, and I would count that.
Okay.
Now,
so it's not an on-ramp onto the CrossFit way of doing things at all?
Not even close.
Gotcha.
You can do, my sister did this. My sister is notorious for not listening to me, which maybe is like most sisters.
Mine has.
I gave up a long time ago trying to get her to do anything that I wanted her to do. And so I told her, I'm like, look, here's the challenge. I'd love you to do it. I gave her a free entry. She goes, I really want to see if I can run every day for 56 days. Because she wasn't a runner. She did not do, this was not a consistent habit. She goes, I know it's probably better for me to do the whole life challenge, but I'm just going to focus on the exercise part. I'm just going to try to do 10 minutes of running and walking. Mm-hmm. She counted walking too. Mm-hmm. And she did it. She had a very funny looking graph because we have 7 colors. It looks like a rainbow chart. Yep. And one color is for exercise, and her graph was one color all the way through, one strip. Yep. All the way through. Yep. Very low score. It didn't matter. That actually, she runs marathons now.
She met her goal.
3.5 years later, and she runs marathons. So, it's very, very gentle. You 10 minutes of mobility, 10 minutes of exercise. Self-defined. Mm-hmm. How much sleep do you need? Well, you get to define. At the beginning of the challenge, you say, good night's sleep for me. I'm only getting 6 hours now. I know perfect would be 8, but it's realistic for me that 6 hours and 20 minutes would be good, would be a accomplishment. You get to put that down, and anytime you do 6 hours and 20 minutes, you give yourself a check.
It's great.
I got it. So it's very gentle. CrossFit is not so gentle.
Yeah, that has been my impression. I've driven by a lot of CrossFit gyms, and I'm like, oh, that's that CrossFit thing. Oh, it's okay. I don't really belong there.
Now,
But
it's
that's just
funny.
my own,
It's interesting because if you go to the right place and you join a community of people who are similar in maybe age or similar in kind of category of life of you, while you won't be as fit as they are because they've been doing it for a year or 2 years or 3 years, your mindset will be very similar to those people because, they're not training to go to the CrossFit Games. They're not training to be elite athletes. Most of them are not training to go, do the Race Across America or, go do some other strongman competition or something. So, you can, CrossFit, really the roots of CrossFit, back when I got involved with CrossFit, it was really about creating, utilizing functional movements, which are compound movements that are universally scalable and universally applicable to life, movements in life. They mimic what we do in life.
Sure.
And doing those in a way that allows you to get better at your life, scaling them in a way that makes them supportive of where you are.
Okay.
So, my mom, who's 83 years old, she doesn't say she does CrossFit, but she does.
Yeah.
I mean, she does what I've taught her how to do. She does the version of CrossFit that I've taught her how to do, which, she incorporates squats. She can actually hold the bottom of a deep squat for over a minute now.
Wow. That's great.
She's 83. None of her friends do that.
From a gerontology perspective, one of the biggest signs of health and wellness in gerontology, geriatricians will have you stand up from a chair without using your hands. Activate.
Just stand up.
Just stand up.
Wow.
That, and they'll drop their keys and have you pick up their keys. If you can pick up their keys off the ground without falling over, if you can stand up without using your arms to push yourself up, you're engaging the largest muscles in the body in a very balanced way.
Right.
So the fact that your mom can squat and hold a deep squat suggests that her quads, her glutes, everything is really, really good. Yeah. So geriatricians would say, you've decreased the risk of long-term falls, balance issues, et cetera, because of that exact workout, that exact exercise. So,
yeah, no, it's really, she lives in a retirement village, and people are terrified of going on the ground.
Yeah,
most of her workouts start with her on the ground. She gets up and off the ground all the time.
That's huge.
And she tries to get her friends to do it with her, but there's just a fear, and people stop doing it. Right. And they start falling into chairs and then using their arms to get out of chairs and then falling onto the toilet and then using grab bars to get off the toilet. And they, 20 years of that, and suddenly you can't do it. Yeah. And of course you're scared. Yeah. Like you don't want to fall over because you can't get up.
Yep. Yeah, there's these cells in the brain, the motor system called Betz cells. We only have 30,000 of them. That's it. And they control the ability of the leg to spring, to catch your weight going downstairs, that flex that catches your weight. And starting at about age 30, those cells start to die off.
Really?
And this is why around 50 or 60, some elders have this sort of stiff-legged kind of gait. Oh. It's a lack of the actual tissue that supports catching your weight with flex.
Where do those cells live?
In the primary motor system.
In the brain?
Yeah. They're descending motor cells.
So they actually send the signal to the muscles to do what they need to do.
To catch the weight as it flexes. Oh, we still have other systems that can bend, so you can still walk. But it's one of the two predator sort of systems that allows animals to really be springy.
So if you keep doing it, you don't lose them, right?
We don't know. Betz cells is so few of them, and there's these giant cells that are kind of fragile that they do seem to have a sort of it's not pathological aging. They do seem to be lost. But of course, the brain can always change, and so you can do other things probably to get some of that feature back, even if you've lost the flexibility.
Because I can tell you, I'm 50, and I just learned, I just did something called MoveNat. It's a certification in a natural movement thing. And one of the things we worked on is getting up above a bar or like a tree branch. Like how would you, if you're hanging below a tree branch, how do you get yourself up above it? Yep. And once you're up above it, how do you get down? So we practice these things called depth jumps. Okay. And then you learn how to do a depth jump with a hand slap so that you dissipate the energy from your feet and legs into your hands. Okay. And then you learn to do the depth jump, hand slap, forward roll. So that you're doing, it's more of a parkour-y, like move. Yeah. And I've recently started doing them off the 8-foot pull-up bar in the gym, and it's freaking so much fun.
That's great. That's great. Probably get a few looks.
I need those cells. I cannot lose those cells. Holy crap.
Yeah, and you probably are maintaining them. I mean, I don't think there's been any good studies showing folks when they get older, but that is generally how things work. If you use it, then they are preserved or repaired.
Right.
But we're discovering more and more every day that we have new brain cells generated every day. Of course, there's pluripotent sort of neural stem cells in a few regions of the brain that continue to pump out cells, and they were sort of considered to be very sort of narrow areas. Like 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a study showing that there's also a sheet of that cell-generating tissue outside the brain that wraps the entire brain.
Wow.
So we actually have the ability to make cells a lot more reliably than we thought we did. Your whole life, your entire life. But cells respond to challenge, learning. So you have to be doing things to create the circuits the cells will live in. Otherwise, the cells are being born don't survive.
Yeah, I always, equate, not equate, but I always tell people, look, your body is inherently, I use the word lazy, it upsets people, but it's designed to be efficient.
Absolutely.
And efficiency means shutting off the things that don't need to be don't need to work.
Minimize your expenditure for the best rewards you can get. If you can reach for the shelf and eat the sugar, your body's like, all right,
don't stand up, don't do anything else.
Shut those legs off. Exactly.
Right. So you move it or you lose it, I guess.
Interesting. So, Andy, what else are you working on these days? What other kind of projects or?
Well, like I said, I did that MoveNet thing. I'm learning how to ride a unicycle. That's another project I'm working on.
I mean, that sounds great from a brain and balance point of view, but why the hell are you learning to ride a unicycle?
Well, it's a very funny story. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was telling him about this guy that's on my Instagram feed who posts his pictures of his unicycles. Ronnie Teasdale. He's a CrossFit guy. He owns a CrossFit gym down in downtown LA. I don't think I've actually ever met Ronnie in person. But he's a very, he's kind of an extreme CrossFitter. He's very capable of pretty much anything. Yep. He does a lot of slacklining. He does a lot of balance stuff, but he's very strong as well.
Sure.
Competitor. And I'm like, God, I've always wanted to, maybe try. I wasn't committing to doing any. And so I got on Instagram, and, Ronnie's got thousands of followers on Instagram, and I sent him one of those private messages. Hey, Ronnie, Andy Petranek, what does it take to start unicycling? I'm just curious. He goes, want to come down to the gym and pick one up? I'm like, oh, shit.
I called my bluff.
I wasn't prepared. Yeah. And literally 2 days later, I had a unicycle in the back of my car. I still actually have it. I need to get it back to Ronnie because I need to get my own. But I got on it, and it became another one of those things for me, like the things that I glom onto in my life.
Sure.
It's counterculture.
Yep.
Not many people can do it.
Yep.
It's really cool if a 50-year-old could do it, compared to the other 50-year-olds on my block.
Sure.
And suddenly it became a really fun thing for me to work on, and it totally fit my personality, even though I was terrible. I mean, it took me... I was counting the hours of training.
Okay.
Because I have a fence outside my house. And so I would take the unicycle out and get along the side of the fence and get myself up on the unicycle and hold on. And there are different strategies that people talk about. One is don't do that. One is just push off and fall.
Just find your balance. Yep. Yeah.
And the other is to hold on. And I was like, I'm holding on. And it took me about 3 hours of combined, not in one time, but 3 hours total before I was able to take probably, 5 or 6 pedal strokes, like free and clear of not touching the railing. And then, it kind of works like a lot of things in life where you have these breakthroughs. And, so I'd be going 5 or 6 pedal strokes, and then all of a sudden I'd go 20 pedal strokes. And I'm like, holy crap, what just happened?
Right.
And then, I pedaled down to the corner. And I'm like, and that didn't happen again for, another 20 attempts. But now I can get on the unicycle. I haven't been practicing as much because of all the rain and the weather's been crappy.
Yeah.
But
unusually so.
Yeah. But I can get on the unicycle now and can pretty much make it to the corner. Not at whim. I mean, not at not whim,
Not voluntarily.
Not like on the spot. If I was to take the unicycle out of the back of my car right now, and I would probably get on it and make a fool of myself.
Okay.
Because typically that's what has happened for me.
Sure.
Like I wanted to show some friends at a party we were having that I can unicycle, and I literally couldn't take one pedal stroke without it crashing to the ground. So I wouldn't put myself on the spot like that.
Okay.
But most of the time I can make it down to the corner.
Is it hard to go up or downhill?
I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet.
That's great.
My vision is that I get what's called a mountain unicycle, which has treads, and it's a much bigger. The wheel I'm learning on, I think, is a 20-inch wheel.
Okay.
And the mountain unicycles are 26 or 29, just like a bike.
Yep.
They have a brake, so when you're going downhill,
you can.
I guess.
Yeah.
I can't really quite comprehend that yet. And these guys do these crazy, they go on these mountain bike trails on a unicycle. And I thought, that is cool. I can't really imagine.
And they're basically fixies. Like there's no gears.
They're fixies.
It's the pedals are tied to the hub.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's when you need a 26 or 29 so that you can keep up with the speed.
Certainly.
But that would be interesting if I could do that someday. I need to get one, because right now the unicycle I'm on is Ronnie's, first of all. It's kind of a training unicycle. And but I imagine they're pretty the same.
That's great.
They ride the same way.
So let's back up for a second. You've been a coach for a long time. You've been in fitness in all kinds of areas, personally, professionally. Let's say there's some folks listening who would love to be more fit, but have no idea where to start because either they've gone decades without being fit, or they may have some physical limitations, or they're just new getting into this idea of trying to be fit. If they're a young person. What are some inroads? What are some ways that people can, become, aside from, and I think they probably should join the Whole Life Challenge, but what are some, what are some general,
So I think one of the coolest tools that I learned over the years of coaching people and doing stuff is the stopwatch. The stopwatch it doesn't mean you're racing. It's just a way to mark time. So if you don't do something now, let's say you come home from work, you prepare dinner, you sit down on the couch, and you watch TV until you fall asleep. Let's say that's your normal life. Anything more than that is an improvement.
Yep.
Anything.
Yeah.
So why don't we say 1 minute? Walk out your back door with a stopwatch and walk for 1 minute. Come back in. Don't do more than that. Don't chew off tiny bites.
Okay.
Because you don't want to do so much. One of the problems that people do is they'll enroll in a boot camp.
Yeah.
They'll go from couch to boot camp.
Yeah.
And invariably, one of the reasons the yo-yo thing happens is they just can't sustain. It's painful. It's watching The Biggest Loser and without support.
Yeah.
And trying to live your life, and you crash and burn 6 weeks later, and you go back to a worse state than you were in before. So taking a very, very small step, like so small that you think this is just silly. Like, of course I can do a minute. Go for a walk for a minute.
What's that, couch to marathon or couch to 50K? Or
there's a guy that does those programs. It goes couch to 5K.
And like the first day you get up and walk around the house and sit back down or something.
Right.
Like it's very incremental.
And you can do that with any body movement. So, I always tell people, look, running, while as great and natural as running is for the human being, it does not force you to move your body through full ranges of motion at your hips or your knees.
Sure.
And if you don't do those things, it can cause imbalances and pain and suffering.
Yep.
So, use the stopwatch with squats. Learn, if you can't do a squat, get a Swiss ball, put it against the wall on your back, and do wall sits or wall squats.
Yep.
You use the advantage of the Swiss ball and go down as far as you can. Go down and hold for 10 seconds.
Yep.
Come back up.
I remember those things. I was the captain of the UMass Amherst fencing team for a year, and we used to do wall sits.
So you're unbalanced. You have one leg that's probably, or you did.
I did.
You had one leg that was probably twice the size of the other leg.
Actually, I used to teach the team, and I'm left-handed, but I would teach right-handed. So I would actually switch all day long.
That's great, because I worked with a couple fencers, and I mean the difference between their left,
it can be huge.
I think it's the front leg, right? It's the power leg.
You push off the back. So it's the opposite of your strong hand usually.
I can't remember which leg it was that was their larger, more dominant
It's usually the back leg because that's all your weight, and you're thrusting, you're exploding off of it. The front leg actually just gets out of the way, and you land, and then you land on it.
Okay.
But yeah, I for a while was developing
huge
some
imbalances.
Yeah,
huge imbalances. So yeah.
Yeah, I only competed left-handed. I have a very strong left wrist. So my wrists are very imbalanced, even still as a, 25, 30 years later.
Handstands.
I'm working on that. I do a lot of Ashtanga yoga, and
Oh, great.
I
Down dog is a great start to a handstand.
the vinyasas, Ashtanga has a transition, basically a sun salutation between every pose.
Oh, cool.
You're doing a sun salutation, so you have the opportunity to do about 10,000 down dogs every time you do it. But my legs got pretty balanced because I could quickly pick up a different weapon, switch gears, teach somebody.
Right.
But in competition and all the really serious practice I would do, it was all lefty, and I ended up with a giant Popeye forearm on one side.
Right.
It happens. The bodies adapt. That's what they do. It's exciting because you can control that, but they can go weird directions too.
Yeah. So I recommend to people all the time, grab a stopwatch.
Yeah.
Come up with some way to measure a fixed amount of time that seems very small compared to what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, ready, 3, 2, 1, go. Do as many push-ups against the wall as you can in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Then you're done. That's great.
So incremental, measure it, quantify it.
Yep, and then write it down.
Log it.
You get a journal, you get a Evernote, use on your
Google Sheets, like you were describing.
Absolutely,
Yep.
they're great, and you need a way to measure it. Simply because it's important to see and to track what you're doing, what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm a gerontologist. I teach courses on gerontology at UCLA.
I didn't know that, no.
Oh, so you're laying things on me. And I have a course I teach in the winter called Psych of Aging, and I make all my students do what's called a modifiable behavior exercise. Because in gerontology, the focus is not so much on curing things, but it's changing the trajectory of decline, flattening it. So you sail into the last year of your life with all your features intact instead of decline for 30 years. And there's a big focus not only on the life course, things you do early in life and how they affect your aging, but in actually changing healthy habits early in life. Big things like smoking, or little things like dropping sugar, increasing fat.
Right.
And so I make all my students for a week track sleep and something else that they think might be worth changing, and quality of life. And then for another week, make a small change and keep tracking everything.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, struggle with it, and they usually aren't quite sure what they're doing, and it's a weird assignment because I'm not asking them to write a paper.
Right.
But by the end, they're like, "Oh my God, I had this incredible experience, and now I discovered I can do things and change how I feel."
Right.
And I'm really, from a gero point of view, talking about decades of perspective. But you can feel some of these changes. Like if somebody went from the couch to walking for 1 minute a day, it would actually be perceptible subjective difference quickly within a few days.
Yep.
And so I love when I can, force/encourage young students to do stuff like this.
It's one of the, that's one of the premises of the Whole Life Challenge is, we're trying to get people to change their context from thinking, I want to be fitter in 6 weeks or 8 weeks. The Whole Life Challenge is 8 weeks, to I want to be fitter 10 years from now. What do I need to do in the next 8 weeks to take measurable steps to improve that are sustainable after the 8 weeks?
Yeah.
That's really the message that we're trying to get across. Even though it's got points and there's some competition and
you're gamifying it to make it engageable, make people have a sense of reward,
it's more fun. Otherwise it's kind of mundane and boring.
That's great. I do personal 5-week sprints generally.
Cool.
So I tend to I'm an entrepreneur. I have lots of jobs. I have lots of activities. So when things get out of control, I find that I've eaten like crap for a few days and haven't worked out for a week. And so every so often I buckle down and for 5 weeks do everything, tightly. And I think 5 weeks is the magical time because that's how long it takes neurons in your brain to be born, turn into the kind of cell that they're going to be, and travel to the place where they're going to be in a network. It takes about 5 weeks.
Okay.
Half the neurons that start that journey die.
Huh.
What is a criteria for living, if you're a protoneuron, is making connections with your friends, actually setting up shop in a circuit.
Okay.
And so that requires using the resources. And so for me, people tell you, oh, you can do this thing in a week. Like I'm in the neurofeedback field. People always have these boot camps that are week long. And I'm not a big fan of the short intense. Brains don't change that quickly. 8 weeks, like you're doing, is definitely enough time to instantiate not only new cells but habits.
It's interesting, and I never really thought of it from the what do you call it?
Neuroscience?
The neuroscience point of view. We made it 8 weeks because 5 weeks. There's an agreement among most people that participate in the Whole Life Challenge that 5 weeks is doable. 5 weeks feels strong. There's not a lot of drop off after 5 weeks, but after 5 weeks, it becomes. The things we hear back from a lot of people in the challenge are now it's boring, it's mundane. Give me something else to do.
Got it.
And that's kind of what we wanted because
Yeah.
that's your life.
Yeah.
Your life becomes boring and becomes mundane.
And you have to keep doing it.
You have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
You have to continue to be conscious. And as much as, I think we're in this pattern, this societal pattern where we expect the app or the program or the watch or the phone to buzz or beep to make us do something.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only so much that an app or something else can make you do. It's your life.
Yeah.
And, so we wanted to keep it at 8 weeks, but we're very much, the philosophy is do it for 8 weeks, come off for 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
do it again for 8 weeks, come off for 8 weeks, do it again. I've done every challenge. We've had 15 now, and I make different changes every single challenge. I use them as training cycles.
Yep.
And then I relax for those 8 weeks, and then I get back on for 8 weeks, and then I get back off for 8 weeks. And it's very, very useful to have that kind of a habit and pattern.
Yeah, and you're sort of scaffolding behavior for people with the gamification, the competition, everything else for the 8 weeks.
And the community and the people that are on board with you. So,
And then during the intervening 8 weeks, do you find that after especially a couple of times of doing these challenges, people start generating more internal discipline, structure,
I call it the converging lines.
Uh-huh.
So, at first, when you first take on the Whole Life Challenge, your goal is to win. Your
Yeah.
goal is to take off the biggest bite you can possibly chew and to get every point, be perfect all the way through the whole life challenge.
Yep.
That's like way up here. Your normal life's down here.
Right.
As you become more Whole Life Challenge mature, you learn that, because the chances are after you do that the rebound is I'm going back to ice cream and pizza and beer every weekend, and I don't care what I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't,
Right. I was successful doing that extreme thing. Give me a break.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It can work. And for some people, maybe that's the right way to do it.
Yep.
What I found, and what a lot of people have found, is that as you gain more maturity in the Whole Life Challenge, you realize that the points aren't really the mother load. The mother load is the 10-year change. And if you really want the 10-year change and the sustainable change, take a much smaller bite. So bring that line down of what you're willing to chew off. And slowly your life will start to come up to meet that line that's coming down. And so
your
now
baseline
I've done
changes.
Your baseline changes. You get a little bit like your bad days become not as bad. You still have them.
Sure.
I'm going to have birthday. My son turns 10 this weekend, and I'm going to have birthday cake. Damn it.
Yeah, that's right.
I love ice cream cake from 31 Flavors, and I'm having it.
Right.
I might not have three pieces, which I've had before. Maybe I will. I don't know.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Depends on what kind of energy you burned the past few days, how much you feel like it's going to throw you down.
Right.
Yeah,
Of course. But I find.
But if you were a 50-year-old who had never worked out, and you were eating American diet, you'd be pre-diabetic, and those 3 pieces of birthday cake would throw up your VDLs for the next 2 weeks, and you'd have increased heart disease. And
Sure.
But you can handle a sugar hit every so often in a way that somebody who's not conditioned.
But what I found is I don't need the same kind of sugar hits. I don't need the same amount of pizza to satisfy this, because there's an emotional tie to this stuff.
Sure.
And I don't need as much anymore. Like I don't like last night my dessert was dates. I like to put almond butter or some kind of a nut butter on dates.
Oh, that's nice.
Now, sometimes I overeat them. I had 4 last night, which is quite a lot of dates.
Yeah.
But in the past, that wasn't satisfying for me. That was what I did because I'm in the challenge and I didn't want to lose points. Now it's what I do because I actually like it.
Sure.
And I don't need to have an ice cream sandwich, in order to feel good after dinner.
Right.
So my emotional ties are changing. My snack foods have changed. So it's just interesting. It's not so much that because I'm fit, I can handle that was almost a negative.
Yeah.
Back in the 15 years ago when I was adventure racing, I could eat whatever the heck I wanted.
Because you're burning so much fuel that
I could
matter.
I could go to Krispy Kreme. I could followed by the Olive Garden. That was one of my favorite places to eat. Unlimited breadsticks, unlimited pasta, unlimited salad. The salad, who cares about salad?
Right. Pasta.
Unlimited everything. Right.
Yeah. Carbs.
And I could do it. And I never looked any different.
Right.
And never performed. Well, I don't know if I would have performed different because I'm only a test case of one. I didn't have a.
But you could handle cycling high levels of glycogen in and out of your system without even thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so there was really no impetus to improve the quality at that time. There would have been now had I had the same knowledge that I do now back then.
Yep.
But
and you're a little older now, so if you were eating that way now, it might do more. It might slow you down more. It might.
Yeah, I fart way more now.
was thinking more like bad cholesterol going up and things like that. But
that's just that's the superficial, ramifications of the bad diet.
That's great. That's great.
Maybe I don't fart more. Maybe it's the same, and I just notice it more.
Maybe. That's great. Well, on that note, Andy, thanks so much for coming on the show today. If our listeners and viewers want to check out the Whole Life Challenge, want to check out your show, your podcast, other things you're doing, where can they find you?
So, wholelifechallenge.com.
Okay.
That's our main website.
That's easy.
I'm very findable. The wholelifechallenge.com/podcast is where the podcast is. Okay. And I'm at Andy Petranek everywhere. I'm at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Cool.
I've got this social media love-hate relationship with it, so I'm not obsessed by being on social media. Like I logged into Facebook today for the first time in a couple of days, and I had over 100 notifications. And for me, that's kind of good. That means I'm not checking too much.
Sure.
If I log in and there's less than like 20, I'm like, I'm getting a little too much in Facebook.
Gotcha.
So those are the places to find me, and I'm responsive, and love to answer questions from people, and
Great. Well, Andy Petranek, our guest today, OG CrossFit, modern, redefining what we're doing with fitness, getting us to think about how to be fit and how to change lifestyles over time. So really illuminating. Thanks so much for dropping some wisdom today. And folks, this has been another episode of Head First with Dr. Hill. Take care of those brains.